Talking about Xbox, this was arguably the best show at E3 this year, and this was the case last time around, especially since Sony, their big rivals, didn't show up. Now, I think this would have been a way better show if the pandemic wasn't a thing because Xbox just turned 20 and also recently acquired Bethesda in a huge deal. So those things got together just right when, at the start of the show, Todd Howard, the head of Bethesda, came on stage just praising Xbox. The real action started just minutes after when he finally set up the reveal for some details about Starfield. The game was probably the most anticipated title to be shown at E3 on stage, and I'm sure a lot of people were glad to finally lay their eyes on some parts of the game, but I don't think they knocked it out of the park because, well, it was just a reveal trailer and it was all cinematic. Right before we had the famous Metro series, we had Stalker, and the two share a lot of common things. A very pleasant surprise was the presence of Stalker 2 at E3 with a very nice and detailed look, showing gameplay, not just cinematic footage. Now, the open world seems to be massive, the graphics are cranked up to 1000 compared to the previous games, you get some crazy guns in this crazy world, and it seems to have also an intricate plot. If, besides the love for FPS games that you have, well, if you get an affinity for such a world dynamic, I think you can be thrilled about this game. Warner Brothers got their taste of E3 this year, even though no superhero games were shown, but they brought back For Blood, which is some kind of love letter to the Left 4 Dead games, with the same kind of premise of online gameplay, offering even PvP modes, but mainly battling hordes of mutated zombies, with gameplay having a little bit of a cartoonish Sunset Overdrive vibe. One of the new games that got to be announced at this show was Contraband, a game that we barely know anything about, and I initially thought that this was actually the first look for the new Indiana Jones game from Machine Games under the supervision of Bethesda. Sea of Thieves was the next game in line, showing that it will get some renewed content with the appearance of the most famous pirate in the world, which is Jack Sparrow. Now, this bit was a little bit weird, I have to say, seeing Disney putting this forward when they actually dropped the actor Johnny Depp from the movie franchise because of all the scandals. When it comes to bigger names in the industry, we have Battlefield 2024 that showed the first gameplay footage on stage, and I have to admit that it looked awesome, but also I don't think it would actually keep the same levels after it will be launched. Also, I have to say that it was funny to see them embrace all the viral clips on the internet from previous Battlefield games and incorporating them into this new trailer. Yet I have to say that it will be disappointing that we won't get any bit of story or a single player campaign with this game. 12 Minutes, one of the most unique looking games in recent years, got a release date and is set to launch on August 19, so it's just around the corner. And moving to Fallout 76, even with the horrible aftermath from its launch, it's still keeping itself on the floating line, and it will get 2 new expansions pretty soon, starting on July 7 with Reign of Steel and Expeditions to Pit coming in 2022. Another big hit with an unique look was a game called Somerville, which is another title that is kept under a veil of secret, but with all that indie game vibe about itself, and also reminding me a lot of the story from The Last of Us, the original game that is, in some particular ways, I think that emotional charge itself is enough to carry this game out. At this point in the conference, with the Bethesda catalog out of the way, Xbox brought out the big guns and they started right away with Halo. The new game in the series will arrive this holiday season and it promises to be the most challenging adventure yet. The graphics of the game still look good, so nothing new there, but we got to see a little bit more from the story and the search for Cortana from Master Chief. But even so, the biggest news by far when it comes to this game is of course the free-to-play Halo multiplayer. Yeah, you heard that right. As Destiny is also free and Call of Duty Warzone is free to play, these two games represent some big names in the industry. So if Halo wants to get the same level of attention itself and keep that initial interest, they have to do something. And following in the same footsteps, I think is the right way to do it. If playing Halo's multiplayer for absolutely free doesn't get you excited, there's plenty of good news to come because Diablo 2 announced to be resurrected and remastered, and also another big announcement, at least in my eyes, since the first game was one of my favorite games ever. A Plague Tale gets a sequel and it's called Requiem, so I just cannot wait for that game to come out. Moving on with the news, Atomic Heart was another game that was on the list, and it's something. I mean, there's a lot of question marks above it. It's hard to describe the game because I don't really know anything, and I don't know what the hell is going on. It seems to have a lot of elements though from a lot of games that we're acquainted with, like Fallout, Metro, We Happy Few, Bioshock, Wolfenstein, and so much more. And I have to say, I just can't wrap my head around it at this time. If there are some among us fans in the audience, you might rejoice because the game will come to Xbox with 15-player lobbies. And some bigger news, right after that we have seen a trailer that was pretty weird because it looked great, it was impressive, but it had a very sarcastic narration taking a pretty nice jab at all the marketing cliches that everyone uses in the industry when they try to create a trailer or they try to just announce a game. And that piece just caught my attention, and I think the jab was a perfect one, especially when at the end we saw the title of the game being none other than The Outer Worlds 2. But even that was a pretty big and interesting announcement. The creme de la creme was kept right for the end of the show. Before Phil Spencer came onto the stage to sign off the entire show, we saw the next Forza Horizon game. With some great graphics, the game will be set in Mexico this time around, taking full advantage of the last game's mechanics when it comes to seasons and dynamic weather. As the game got us used to some pretty bonkers and fun challenges, they have doubled down for that in the next installment, when we will get a piñata event to compete in, some sort of battle royale type of race, and also a full arena that is filled with stunts. Drawing the line on this full presentation, I have to say that it was pretty impressive. With a full list of 30 games, Xbox just showed that they don't really play when they play. And this was a show that was fully focused on games, also a show that had something to show at E3 compared to the other ones. This is definitely taking the crown, and honestly I really like the way they handle the business when it comes to games and what the fans want, so I'm pretty thrilled to see what they have in store in the years to come.